Hi guys, welcome back to another Gwent video. In today's video, we're going to focus on the upcoming patch 8.5 for Gwent, which is coming tomorrow, May 6th. This patch is a pretty big one. It introduces a bunch of new buffs and nerfs to certain cards, and in particular, buffs a lot of the new old existing stratagems that didn't see a lot of play. So that's very exciting. But also, it introduces a huge nerf to one of the most powerful, ever-present cards that Gwent has ever seen. I'll not spoil it out, but I'm pretty sure what most of you know what it is. With this patch, we are also going to be getting a brand new journey. The patch notes surprisingly reveal the character, even though the trailer for it has not come out yet, which is a kind of weird, but hey. Anyway, let's get started. Welcome to 8.5 patch notes, Spotlight New Journey featuring Triss Merigold. Yep, Triss is the character, and as a Triss fan, I'm super excited about this. New leader, new card backs, avatars, so on and so forth, the normal stuff. 8.5 also brings balance changes that were focused on three goals: making the weaker stratagems stronger and more tempting to choose for your deck, buffing some of the less popular leaders and making them more versatile, and finally balancing new cards released in 8.3 update. So this is mainly the quote-unquote leader cards that were introduced, right? So some of the changes we did get to see in a dev stream during the open, which happened a week back, I believe. 2 weeks back, I think. So yeah, if you guys have already seen that, you probably already know some of the changes that are happening to cards like Foltest, Meave, Hosen Jr., so on and so forth. But here we'll cover everything. They're also introducing new starter decks, aiming to make it easier and more entertaining for new players to join the game. I believe what they said is that they're actually introducing a lot of pretty interesting cards in the starter decks. I'm not sure what they are, obviously, but if you are a new player, get excited, I guess. Anyway, let's start off with neutral, Enchanted Armor. So this is what the first stratagem. Auto boost unit in your hand by 3 and give it 2 armor. So the 2 armor part is new. It's a nice touch. I can probably see this being run in dwarves maybe. You can give it to Yarpin, give it to a berserker, so on and so forth. I think this could be a nice option for dwarves. I don't really see it being used outside of dwarves though. Next up, Ceremonial Dagger. Order, damage an enemy unit by 3 and give it bleeding 2. So the original Ceremonial Dagger actually used to do this right here. They didn't change it to give it 5 bleeding, and now they've essentially mixed both of them. So effective, it's still 5 damage overall, but now you have more immediate control available with this. And I can see this actually being run in potentially Revenant decks, Northern Realms Revenant decks, because I remember, I think this was when Princess Ada's ability existed, Ada Ada, deal 8 damage. This stratagem was something I actually used to like running because the damage was actually very powerful in setting up your Revenants, which was nice. Uh, Next up goes Scroll. Order, draw a card of your choice, then put a card from your hand at the bottom of your deck. The biggest change about this card is the fact that it's your choice. It's no longer the top card. You can choose any card in your deck and you decide to put the card back at the bottom of your deck. This is a very powerful change because this means you can fix your hand and draw exactly what you want. I've seen some people say this might be a stratagem used for V, though I'm not so sure just because Crystal Skull is very powerful in keeping your Slizzards or slash your other consumes alive without getting locked, poisoned, which is a powerful thing to have. But seems like an interesting deck. Maybe Lippy runs this. Maybe target draw certain cards for the first round and then kind of Lippy them later, right? I can see the Lippy maybe running this, but it's a very very powerful change, definitely. They also Next up, Armory is now a location. So yeah, in this patch they've also introduced 3 new locations, but the locations are all repurposed cards that have existed in the game before. So essentially they've all been given resilience and an order effect. Armory is the one now. This is a neutral location. Resilience, deploy, boost an ally by 6, give 3 armor to an allied unit. This one seems pretty decent. I think it might see play in a dwarf deck. Again, 3 armor seems like a nice bonus, because the thing is now, the boost and the armor part are separate now. You don't have to give it to the same unit, right? Previous armor, it would boost and give armor to the same unit. But in this case now you can boost maybe an engine and then give the armor to something else that could use it, like Yarpin or a Berserker or Prove Hoog. I can see this being experimented in a dwarf deck, definitely. Next up, Regis provision changed from 13 to 12. It's a buff to him. Do I see him seeing play? I don't think so. Next up, Land of 1,000 Fables is now a location. Ability change to Resilience. Deploy. Play a special card from your deck. So the previous Land of 1,000 Fables, a special tutor. Order. Transform a special card in your hand into a random unit of the same provision cost from the same faction. So what this means is, let's say you're playing Nerf card and you have a bribery in your hand. You decide to use this order on the bribery. This means your bribery will now turn into an 8 provision cost card. I think Frykev is 8 provision, so there's an example. Is this good? It's inconsistent, right? It's RNG. Assimilate might like running this, but then again, you don't want to use this on a bronze special, right? I don't think you want to use it on a bronze special, and gold specials are pretty powerful in general. If you use this on an echo card like Amphibious Assault, that's pretty, I mean, I guess that's interesting. You get a Draug, I believe. It is 13 provisions, I believe. So a Draug is also 13 provisions. If this sees play, it's going to be in a meme deck, I think. I don't think this is going to be a meta card in any way. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, guys. All the things I'm about to say are theoretical. In practice, things are very different. This is just my general feelings of how I feel about the card. So yeah. Who knows? Maybe Land of 1,000 Fables becomes a tier 0 card in this patch. Who knows? But you know, it's always nice to theorize. I don't think personally this is going to see too much play. Maybe Assimilate wants to have fun with this, and maybe some meme decks with, you know, RNG decks where they throw in all the RNG cards in the game. This could see play in that. Operator provisions change from 8 to 7. That's a nice buff to this card. This is a buff to Mill, because right now Mill is, I think, the most popular deck that actually runs this card. Armorer's Workshop. Armor given change from 1 to 2. It's a nice buff to this card. Traveling Merchant. Power change from 4 to 5. This is the card that swaps the top 2 cards in the opponent's deck. In your deck and the opponent's deck, right? That's the Traveling Merchant. Is that it? Let me just quickly check. Let's see. Traveling Merchant. Gwent. I think I'm mistaken. No, it's the other one, right? Let's go here. Oh, shuffle a card from your hand into your deck to draw a card. Okay, this is this card. So it's a nice buff to it. I don't think we'll see too much play unless you're playing a certain Viper deck or a deck that really is meme in nature that wants to target draw something. So but it's a nice quality of buff. Quality of life buff, definitely. Wagenburg, it's now a 4 provision cost card. This is actually an interesting buff to it. I was actually running a Wagenburg in a Living Armor deck. And now that it's 4 provisions, means that, you know, you can actually have a better card in your deck as well. Nice. It's a nice touch. Iris Shade. Oops. Provision change from 10 to 9. I love this. I've always thought this card was super fun with Vladimir and Draco Turtle, and this is just a nice buff to it. Iris's Companions. Ability change to Deploy. Draw a card of your choice, then discard a card. Okay. This should say discard a random card right here. Oh, it does. I can't read. My bad. Discard a random card. If you have Iris in hand, choose which card to discard instead. I like this. It's thematically a very nice change. So there's 2 Iris cards. You have Iris Shade, you have standard Iris, who just gives 4 vitality. That's the problem, right? Like, there's no synergy between Iris Companions and Iris, the other Iris cards. So it's a nice thematic change, but it's not going to see any play at all. Murktebrak. Power change from 4 to 5. Proficiency change from 8 to 7. This is a nice buff to Murktebrak. For those who don't know what she does, you choose 2 targets and deal 2 damage to them. So she used to play for 8. Now she can play as a 9 for 7, which is pretty nice. She's like a Fringilla, except limited to maximum 2 targets, right? Fringilla can potentially hit 3 targets, so So now we move on to monsters. Detlef under Eratine. Initial Blood Moon duration changed from 1 to 2. This is a nice buff to Detlef, which means now his potential maximum duration of Blood Moon goes to 4 if you play him between 2 vampires. It's a nice buff. Unseen Elder is now 6 power. You'll actually notice this is a common change for a lot of the cards. A lot of the cards have been bumped up in power by 1, which is nice. Just makes it more difficult to kill him. Also, I apologize if you hear my bell. Moving on, Artispore. Power change from 2 to 4. Ability change to Deathwish. Summon all copies of this unit from your deck to this row. This may look familiar to you. This is because this is the old Foglet card right here. Foglet has been completely reworked, so the Artispore has now taken over the Foglet's role. This means that Artispore will see play, which will make all those people who love the plant happy, I guess. It's gonna be a good card. Foglet is always a very good thinning option for monsters, so this will definitely see play. Let's look at one of the most interesting changes for me, in my opinion. Foglet. Ability change to Deathwish. Spawn Fog on the opposite row for 3 turns. That's right. Weather is coming back to monsters in a big way. We saw Frost with the Wild Hunt attacks, but now Fog is coming back. That's really interesting to me. So for those who don't, just a reminder what Fog does, it damages the lowest unit on the row by 2. So the maximum value that a Foglet plays for now is 10 for 4 provisions, which is very good. But the thing is, Fog kind of loses value as you deal damage, because obviously the lower units can be odd numbers, they end up at 1, lose value like that, right? It's still a nice change though, definitely a very interesting change. The next one is Ancient Foglet. Power change from 1 to 4. Provisions change from 4 to 6. Ability change to Deploy. Boost self by total duration of row effects on the opposite side. Whenever you apply a row effect, boost self by its duration. So this card essentially is very similar to it's like Fallen Knight mixed with the Seditious Aristocrats. This is actually a very interesting card. If you play Crimson Curse and then follow up with this card immediately, this plays on deploy for 8. Because Crimson Curse has a duration of 5. After your opponent plays, it goes down to 4. Ancient Foglet comes down at 4. 4 plus 4 is 8. Very powerful. And the fact that it has Veil is actually pretty nice as well. I think this card is actually pretty powerful and will only get better as weather gets better in monsters. Straight up. I also like the fact that it's not limited to fog. It's any weather, which is nice. You know, it would have been very easy for CDPR to just say fog only, right? But that would make it quite weak. But the fact that you can run Frost or Crimson Curse is very nice indeed. I like it a lot. Cyclops is not restricted to the melee row anymore. This is a huge buff to Cyclops in my opinion. This card's biggest weakness was that not only did it have to be adjacent to the unit you wanted to destroy, it was melee locked, which was horrible. Now that it's not melee locked anymore, this is actually potentially a decent removal card you can run in monsters. Deathwish is definitely going to run this. Like if you have a Deathwish deck, you will want to run this card just because it's great value. So yeah, great buff to this card. I love it. Maruna, power change from 4 to 5. Interesting buff to Maruna. Maruna is already a pretty good card. This just makes her better. Now I think her ceiling is 13 points. So yeah, she's 13 for 9 potentially. She is random, obviously, but it's a nice buff. Succubus category change to Relic. This is surprising to me. The fact that it's not a beast and now is a relic, actually I feel is a nerf, honestly. You can't buff it with Siren. You can't buff it with Morvard. Is there any relic synergy there? The only relics I can think of are Succubus, Maruna herself, and I think the Crones, right? But there's no actual relic synergy, so this is a weird change. Maybe it's a change for the future expansion, who knows? But I don't really see why they did this in the current patch, by the way. Next up is the Monsters Stratagem Urn of Shadows. Now you can trigger the Deathwish of any allied unit. This is a huge buff. You're no longer restricted to bronze cards. You can now use this on Maruna. You can use this on Manticore, Werecat. It's a big buff. It's a very big buff. If your opponent plays a 4-point engine turn 1, you just drop Maruna and then you drop the Urn of Shadows on it. Instant value. It's a great change, a very powerful change of Urn of Shadows. There's already a very good stratagem with Deathwish because it potentially plays for 6 on the Harpy Egg. But now it's even better with Maruna and Manticore. Very good, very powerful change. Super powerful change. Very powerful change. Eridan is now 6 strength, very similar to the Unseen Elder one, just makes him just a little more survivable, which is a nice change. Alright, that's it for monsters. Moving on to Skellige. Reckless Flurry. Ability change to auto split 3 damage randomly between all enemy units, ignoring their armor, charges 3. This is a huge change to the Reckless Flurry. This I think immediately makes the leader ability not only viable but extremely strong. 3 damage is it's still random, true, but now your control options are a lot more precise compared to the 8 damage it used to do before. It's a very, very powerful change. The fact that it still ignores armor is very interesting as well. When I first saw this change, I was instantly jumping to a potential Matic deck with Reckless Flurry. Just have super control, right? I think this is a really powerful change, and I cannot wait to experiment with this. I can see Great Swords coming back. I can see Dagger maybe coming back in some way. Dagger's always a fun card to play with this leader ability. Yeah, just seems like a really powerful change. Very excited for this. Mask of Ouroboros. This is the Skellige stratagem. Number of crows has been changed from 1 to 2. So this plays as a 4-point stratagem now with the discard as well. So if you discard something like a Skirmisher, it plays for 8 points. If you discard Moquag, it plays for 9 points. Very nice change. Very nice change. This was also seen, by the way. This was not something that wasn't ever played. It was played in certain decks, and this is just a lovely change to it. Very nice change. Coral, power change from 5 to 6. Ability change to Zeal. Order, draw a card, then discard a card. Whenever you discard a card, damage a random enemy unit by 2. This is a huge change. Keep in mind that she's been changed to whenever you discard a card. It's no longer restricted to a special card. Previously, if you discard a special card, only then would she damage an enemy unit by 2. But now it's if you just discard anything at all. This with Burna is a lot of tempo. A lot of tempo. On deploy, she plays as an 8 because she's 6 plus you discard something. So it's 2. If you discard a Moquag or a Skirmisher, that's just 12 points / 13. This is something that your opponent will have to answer. Will want to answer because she gets a lot of value otherwise. Like, imagine dropping Coral and then playing Mask of Ouroboros, right? So you discard 2 cards in that turn. A lot of tempo out there. A lot of tempo. This seems like another fun card to experiment with in a discard deck. Potentially Lippy, maybe. Would Lippy run this? Maybe. Maybe as a replacement to Snowdrop, maybe? Super excited about this card. Very excited about this one. Dire Bear has a new part of the ability. Berserk 7 affects only the opposite row. So for those who don't know what Dire Bear does, it prevents any boosts on your row, the Dire Bear's row, and the opposite row. So it just denies boosts. Now, to make it a little easier for the Skellige player to not be punished for placing their card incorrectly, if it's Berserk 7, you can still boost your card. So you can play something like a Cultist Priest on the side and get its boost up. Honestly though, like, if you're running Dire Bear, you're not really boosting things on your side anyway, so it's just a quality of life change. Simple as that. Iced. He's been nerfed to Bloodthirst 3. It's not the biggest nerf, that's for sure, but it's a nerf, it's a start, right? I still think he's going to be a very strong card. Bloodthirst 3 is not the most difficult thing for Skellige to get, but now again, Bloodthirst 3 is not the easiest thing to get as well. So it's a nerf. Is it enough? Not sure. I don't personally think it's going to see too much reduction in his play. I think there will still be Blazer Glory iced decks that are going to be quite strong if the combo goes off. But just making sure you get this number is going to be a little more challenging. Just a little more. Kraken Crate has a new part of ability. Order damage a unit by 1, cooldown 2. So essentially, he's got Krak's ability. He's got Onslaught built into him. Krak is already a pretty good card. If he's not answered, he can completely wreck that entire round, right? He's a very powerful effect. And now this just makes him even better. This damage unit by 1 is very powerful reach. It makes a 6 a 5, which means your stunning blow kills it. It makes a 5 hit become a 4, which means your gutting slash kills something. And any pirates slash ships you play next to him just have an easier time killing stuff. It's a very powerful change. This card is going to be just even better now. The only reason this card didn't see as much play is because pirates themselves are not very strong right now, you know. But I think this card is very powerful on his own. Armor Up is now a 4 provision cost card. This card saw players 5 provisions. At 4, it's a very good special card. Like Cellphone Skellige is going to love this, you know, with the Bear Witcher Mentors. This card is very good now. It just gives you 2 extra provisions, right? Which is such a nice change for that deck. And I always enjoyed playing Cellphone Skellige with the Witchers. It was such a fun deck, and this is just a lovely change to it. I love it. Big change. Huge fan of this change. Svalbard Totem is now a location and a resilience. So Skellige has 2 locations now. Henkaduk and now Svalbard Totem. Honestly, it's not a huge change. You know, you don't have to trigger the order effect immediately that same round. Now you can just save for the next round potentially, and if you have some sort of maybe a card like Olaf, you can play him next to him and get 2 extra damage on him for more value. It's a nice quality of life change. Bear Witcher Quartermaster now has Zeal. This is a very powerful one. For those forgetting what this card does, it's the 4 strength 1 armor card, ping an allied unit and spawn a Witcher student on the same row. The fact that it's a Zeal means that it's just better. It's already a very good card, and people did answer this because the synergy it had with the Cellphone Skellige deck was pretty good, right? And now there it has Zeal. It's just a very good card. Very nice card. Big fan of this change. I can't wait to actually play that deck. I think this deck is going to be quite fun to play now. Terror Crew Plunderer, power change from 3 to 2. It's a nice buff to it, nothing major. Terror Crew Axe Wielder, power change from 2 to 3. Again, a nice buff. For pirates in general, this is just trying to make pirates just a little bit better. So yeah, it's a nice change. Do I think pirates are going to be tier 1? I don't think so, but they're definitely going to be interesting to play with. Harald Houndsnout is now 8 provisions. This is a very nice buff because I do think this card is actually quite powerful. And the fact 9 provisions, he actually kind of got a little power crept at this stage because there's just so many good cards that Skellige has access to at this range. So 8 provisions is very good. Alright, so that's all the Skellige changes. Moving on to NR. First up, Pincer Maneuver. Ability change to Order. Draw a Northern Realms card of your choice, then shuffle a card from your hand back into the deck and spawn a volunteer in your melee row. Charge 2. I'm not sure how I feel about this. On one hand, you get to fix your hand twice. You get to ensure you draw 2 of your strongest cards in any game always. That's a lovely buff. That's a huge thing to have. But at the same time, you're losing the boost by 5. Which was actually pretty nice to have, you know. Like, imagine pulling an Anseus at 9 immediately, just being able to do something. So this card, this leader on its own plays for 4 because of the volunteers are 2 strength each. But obviously, the big draw of this card is being able to gain access to specific NR cards. Like, let's say you're playing Revenants and you missed your Fallible in round 3. No worries, I'm just gonna pull out my NR Fallible and I'm good. I missed my AA round 1. Don't worry about it, I'll just use a charge here. Yeah, it's definitely difficult to say if this is... I think it's overall a buff. I think it's overall a more stronger leader ability for NR. But do I see it having any major presence? Probably not. Probably not. Anyway, next up, King Foltest is now a soldier. Lovely. Power change from 7 to 6. Provisions change from 12 to 11. New part of the ability, at the end of your turn, boost a unit to the right by 1. This card is the entire package on his own now. King Foltest does everything on his own now. You don't need a Temerian Drummer now. You don't need to have boosts now. If this guy lives, he's just he just works on his own. He's a extremely self-sufficient edge. This is a very powerful buff to him. Yes, his power's gone down, but he's now cheaper as well. I think this card in the new Commandos is going to come back in a big way. And I say Commandos because there's another change to Inspired Zeal that's coming up, which I think is going to make NR Commandos a very strong force to reckon with. My prediction. Queen Meve was also now a soldier. This, I don't know why she wasn't a soldier on launch. I just don't know why, but it's nice to have that. New part of the ability. When the counter reaches 0, boost all units by 1 and reset the counter. Whenever this unit receives a boost, gain 1 armor. So the big one is, now that she's a soldier, she now procs Carrack frigates, which is nice. Carrack frigates are something you want to run with Wing Me because obviously they swarm for you, so that's nice. But the big one is that the counter resets once it hits 0. So essentially, she can do this multiple times. The problem with this is that to have this proc multiple times, you have to play her quite early. At least if it's a long round with 10 cards, probably by turn 4 you want to play her so that you can potentially get second procs off with enough swarm. It doesn't answer the biggest problem with this card, is that it just gets heat waved. You know, the fact that it gains armor with the boost is also nice, just makes it more difficult to move the boost, because obviously the armor is going to absorb some damage, but I don't know. I think on some level I'm happy to see a buff to Queen Meave. I've always enjoyed the character. I always liked the character. But I don't think this is going to make a super tier 1. We'll see though. We'll definitely see. Boar fucking infantry. Power change from 1 to 3. Ability change to deploy. Spawn left flanking infantry and right flanking infantry on both sides of this unit. Bonded, boost self by 3. So you play one, it plays as a 5. If you play the second one, that one plays as an 8. And it's Swarm, which means this card is a lovely card for Queen Meave. This is a lovely card for NR Swarm. Trace Telekinesis with Bone Talisman, Queen Meave, bunch of Boar Infantries, bunch of Carrack Frigates, Dun Banners, potentially a Folders in there. Seems like a pretty fun Swarm deck for NR, I think. I think you have the makings of a potentially quite effective Swarm deck for NR. I'm excited about this. It's a nice change to it. Lyrian Arbalest is now 4 strength. This should have happened many patches ago. It's good to see that it's now at 4 strength. Is it a good card? They did say that in the dev stream that they have plans with order cards in general and stockpiles, so I think it's next month or next to next month that we're going to have some sort of big rework to NR charges in general, which I am excited about, because I've always found charges to be kind of awkward in NR. They've never truly, been as powerful as they could be, right? Next up, Siege Tower. Vitality and boost change from 3 to 4. It's a nice buff to the card. It's a nice bronze card now for a siege deck. I'm not saying that siege is going to be powerful, but it's just a nice buff to it. Nothing more to say about it. Inspired Zeal. Boost change from 1 to 2. This scares me, actually. For those who were there during the DJ Foltest meta, the reason the Foltest meta was so good was because of the fact that leader ability used to do this. It used to boost by 2. This meant you could drop Selkirk at 7 and immediately deal. You could drop your commandos and make them 6 power and immediately summon, so a lot of tempo. And with the buff to with this change to King Foltest, this card in a Commandos deck I think is going to be a very powerful tool. Now, to be fair, the original Foltest deck did run Drog. At that time, Drog was very powerful because you could turn all humans on the entire side of your board into Remnants, right? Now it's limited to the row, but I don't think it's still going to be weak by any means. I am excited for this, but I'm also a little bit scared. Maybe CDPR believes that this change now is worth it because of the power increase that all cards we've seen, right? So maybe I'm over-exaggerating and I'm being scared for nothing. We'll see. Next up, Scoia'tael. Invigorate, ability change to order, boost 5 units in your hand by 1, charges 2. This is a good change. Do I think it's going to be competitive? Probably not, because there's not really massive payoffs for boosting 5 units in your hand by 1. This essentially means you can boost your Glaze by 2, right? Because you use the first charge, boost your Glaze once, second charge, boost your Glaze. Okay. This also means you can boost your Skeleton Skags by 2, guaranteed. But the thing is, there's not many cards that have a massive payoff for being boosted. There's a few bronzes, like the Elven War Dancer. If it's boosted by 1, it deals 3 damage instead of 1. The Markham Defender, if it's boosted, it keeps on boosting at the end of the turn. But that's the thing, the payoff isn't really there. It's a nice flexible change for sure. It means you can play this in a shorter round as well. You don't have to commit this into a long round, which is nice. You don't lose value for having a special card or a trap in your hand. So yeah, that's a nice change, but I don't think it's going to be competitive. But it's a good step in the right direction for sure. Very good step in the right direction, in my opinion. The Great Oak, power change from 7 to 8. So this card has dropped a lot ever since Gazros came out. And even before Gazros was released, this card didn't see much play just because of how expensive it is. Harmony lost a lot of its power, right? And Great Oak was mainly seen in Harmony. Symbiosis doesn't really run Harmony just because they have cards like Forest Protector, which is a lot better, more flexible. Do I think this is going to be the card great? Probably not. I think Gazros is still a better card overall, but it's a nice buff to Oak. We'll see. This change, Scoia'tael Neophyte, is a very exciting one. It has a new ability, part of the ability, Order, transform an allied elf into Elven Deadeye. So the deployability is still the same. Spawn a copy of this card on the other row, so it plays as a 4 on deploy, but both the copies now have this Order ability, which means this card effectively can play as a 6. If you play this on, so if one Neophyte uses the Order on the other Neophyte, that plays as a 5 then, and then if you play another Neophyte and then use the Order, it plays for 6. You can play this on Wounded Elves, which is really nice. Let's say your Vanguard got reduced to 1 strength, just use it on this, you gain some points back. And this is more Elven Deadeyes, which means more Vernocial potential. This is just great overall. It's a really nice ability actually, very nice. This actually is a buff to the Scoia'tael stratagem. I believe it's Enshade Saber. Yeah, that's what it's called, right? That's a nice buff for that card, definitely. Munro, Bruise. Ability change to Zeal, Order, transform an allied Rowdy Dwarf into a Dwarf Berserker, charge 2. Essentially what they've done is they've made this card a lot more forgiving. If you, let's say you played your Zoltan's Company, spawns 3 Rowdy Dwarfs, but your opponent kills 2 of them. Well, now your Munro feels kind of bad, right? You've lost one of your Rowdy Dwarfs and you only have 1. But now, you can just use 1 charge and save the other charge when you get another Rowdy Dwarf, either via Figgis or the Dwarven Chariot. This is just a fantastic quality of life change. It's a really nice flexible change. It just makes it so that Munro doesn't feel bad playing Munro onto a board where you only have 1 Rowdy Dwarf. It's a nice change, especially for how expensive the card is, right? Next up, Rawhide Vanguard is now 2 strength. It's a nice buff to it. Gadwitcher Adept is now 4 power instead of 3. It's another nice buff. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Nothing massive in Scoia'tael, I would say. I think the biggest one is probably Neophyte and Munro. But yeah. Moving on to Nilfgaard. Morvran is now 7 strength, so it's a nice buff to that leader ability. Lockdown has now gotten 14 provisions instead of 13. I don't think it's going to be comparative still, but it's slowly going to get there, I think. Imperial Formation now has a passive. Whenever you play a soldier, give it 1 armor for each adjacent soldier. This is a nice thing. This is actually a trend you're going to see in the Nilfgaard changes. A lot of the soldier, it's very clear that they want the soldier deck to be powerful. And this is actually a good stuff. This is actually a pretty fun passive. It just makes the soldiers a lot more difficult to kill, like your Noska or your Ardfin crossbowmen, It just makes them tankier, which is nice. It's a lovely change. And by the way, Ardfin crossbowmen want to have armor, so the more armor they have, the better they are, right? That's nice. That's a nice change. I like this a lot. I'm super excited to try out a soldier NG deck. Damien de la Tour is now 6 strength. Again, very similar to the Unseen Elder deck. Sorry. Stefan Skellen is now 9 provisions, which means he can be renewed. You can also play Han Marvin's Blue Dream on him if you wanted to for some reason. Yeah, nice change overall. Just some nice changes. Maybe Enslave Tactics NG potentially here. Reamday is now 6 provisions. This is a big one. This is actually a very big one. The amount of value Reamday can get, he can easily play for a 12. 12 for a 6 is phenomenal. That's a lot of points. So this is a great change. Vrikev is now 4 strength. This card is very strong. I actually love the effect of this card. I think it's a very unique effect. And it just feels great to use him on a double slave infantry, right? Just feels so good. It's a nice strength. Just a bit more tempo. Vivian is now 4 strength. So that's a nice strength change to her. This change right here. This change right here is massive. Masquerade Ball will now only progress for aristocrats played on your side of the battlefield. This means Joachim and Roderick of Duntine do not proc Masquerade Ball. That is a huge nerf to Ball. I am so happy, but at the same time, I'm a little concerned about NG. I think a lot of the power came from the fact that you could run Masquerade Ball in almost any NG deck just because of the amount of aristocrats and how powerful Joachim and Roderick were. But now that they don't proc of it is a insane nerf. It's a huge nerf. It's warranted in my opinion. I think it's a good nerf. I think it's a very healthy nerf. The amount of tempo that NG could uh, obtain by simply playing this out was insane. Not only was it tempo in terms of points, it was also removal tempo with the procs of the Masquerade Ball happening, right? It was insane. This is a huge nerf. Do I think Ball is going to be super competitive? Probably not. This probably will make people not want to play Ball. Like, I mean, Ball is still not bad. Like, there's a few decent aristocrats like Usurper, Devotion version, the Van Moorleham Hunter, Hunters. I forget the name of them. The lock card, the bleeding slash lock card. That's a fine card. Vincent will probably come back in a big way. Vivian is an aristocrat. Anna Henrietta is an aristocrat, but she's a pretty mean card. She's not very consistent. Philippe van Moorleham is just a bad card in general, so you don't. That's, yeah. I believe Vatier is an aristocrat as well, but that card is also pretty bad, right? So you don't see that as well. So yeah, that's a big nerf. It's a huge nerf. Oof. I'm wondering. I'm actually really excited to see what NG players are going to play now. Like, I can see them still squeezing this in and playing it, but now they're not going to have the same tempo value, right? I don't think Joachim is a bad card, by the way. I don't think Joachim loses any value because you can still play Coup de Grace on him and you can still get a bunch of tempo on him. Joachim is still a very good card. You can run him in a soldier deck. You can run him in a ball deck. You can run him in almost any deck. He's such a fantastic card. But the Masquerade Ball Joachim combo is dead, and I think that's a fantastic change. I love this change. Alright, moving on. Emir Var Embrace. Ability change to Zeal. Deploy, draw a card, then move a card from your hand to the bottom of your deck. So same thing. Whenever your opponent plays a unit, give it Spying. So the deploy is the same, except the Spying tag is now not relegated to Devotion. It just gives Spying now. It's a huge buff there. But next up, Order. Seize a 1-power enemy unit with Spying. So this is where the Zeal comes in. Devotion, refresh the card's order. So this means that you as a player now get to choose specifically what card you want to steal. As long as it's 1 strength and it's Spying, you get to choose if you want to steal maybe a 1-point engine or a 1-point spy. This is a very nice buff to Emir. And the fact that Spying is no longer relegated to Devotion is a big thing. It just makes Spying decks a lot better, right? Because now every time your opponent plays a card, it gets Spying, which just makes your seditious aristocrats better. It makes your aristocrats better. The Van Moorleham cards better. It makes the I'm forgetting the name of them. Emperor Enforcers, are they? The ones that get in charge every time a Spying unit appears. It makes them better. I think this card is not top tier, but it's a strong card for Spying. Spy decks will have a lot of fun with this card. Combat Energy is now a soldier. It's also for strength. I don't really care about this one. It's a nice buff, but Toussaint Knight Errant is now 3 strength instead of 2. For those wondering what this is the card that does 4 damage to a unit that is 6 strength or more. Again, Rico Mersdorf will now also change his power when he is in the deck. Wait, isn't Rico a neutral card? Let me just check this. Rico Mersdorf. I believe this card is a neutral card. Wait. Rico Gwent. I'm pretty sure this card is a neutral card, so it's actually interesting to see. I guess there's nothing here. Oh, it's a dual faction card. I see. Oh wow, I actually Rico Mersdorf Syndicate Nilfgaard. I for some reason always thought he was a neutral. He's actually a Syndicate Nilfgaard dual faction card. Interesting. Anyway, he will now also change his power when he is in the deck, which means you can tutor him. If your opponent plays Igorn, you can now say tutor Rico and play a 13-point Rico. It's a nice buff. Does Nilfgaard want to play this card? It's pretty inconsistent for them. Syndicate want to play this card? Probably not. I think it's a nice buff to it, but I don't see this card seeing too much play. And finally, guys, Syndicate. Syndicate. Back Alley Chemist ability change to Zeal Order. Give an allied unit poison and gain 2 coins. So yeah, Zeal, it's nice. This is just a bit more support for self poison for Syndicate. I think it's still not the best card for that deck. I think the deck wants to spend provisions on something else. But again, I don't have much experience with self poison myself, so I'm not sure how to really judge this card too much. Horst Borsodi, new part of the ability. Fee 1, give an allied unit vitality for 1 turn. So what they've done with Ewald and Horse, by the way, so Ewald, by the way, give enemy unit bleeding for 1 turn, is that they've essentially made them spenders, which is actually nice. The one thing about Syndicate is that you don't want too many spenders because you can kind of thin out, your cards so much. Like if you have too many spenders but not enough coin gainers, it feels bad. If you have too many coin gainers but not enough spenders, it feels bad. Ewald and Horst, I think these changes are nice. Making them spenders is pretty nice. I believe Horst will plays as a 6 now, right? Because you gain 2 coins and if you spend both those coins immediately, he plays as a 6, right? But if Ewald is in the graveyard, he gains profit 4 instead, no, he gains profit 3. 3 profit, 6 profit, yeah. So this guy plays as a 7. It's a nice change. I can't really judge if it's going to make them big cards. I think there's just much better spenders out there. Obviously, Tunnel Drill, Freak Show, Shark to Aldersburg. I'm not really sure you'd want to spend, use provisions to use these cards, right? Like maybe people might run one Ewald or one Horst, but not both of them together. Like I don't see people running both of them together unless they're just trying to have fun, right? Oh, this is a massive change. Salamander Mage is now a mage. The game is playable, guys. This is a game-changing buff to the Salamander Mage. This makes this card tier 0. If you see this card played, just forfeit. There's literally no point in playing that match because you are going to lose because this card is busted. I cannot believe CDPR did this. It's too good of a change. Hell no. 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 I don't like this. Alright, moving on. Roland Blindheim. Tooltip now currently specifies that a unit needs to gain poison in order to gain coins. This is just a bug fix in the wording. It's just to make sure that new players aren't confused. That's it. He still works the same. Cleaver now has no armor. This is a big. This is actually a nice nerf to him. He's still a very powerful card, but now he dies to the on-crate longship. By the way, he just dies to it, similar to Colgrim. So yeah, be careful about that. Just make sure you're keeping that in mind, right? But yeah, he's still a very powerful card. It's a small nerf. It's not going to kill the card. The card is still fantastic. So you spend 4 for 5 power. That's great. Horson Jr. ability change to Insanity built in. No longer does he need Devotion for Insanity. Deploy. Damage a boosted enemy unit by 6. Gain a coin for every point of excess damage dealt. Devotion. Damage an enemy unit instead. This is a huge change. This is like a Squirtle on steroids. And fee 3. Destroy an enemy unit with 3 power less. This card, I think, is a very scary card. This card was already seeing a lot of play towards the end of the last patch, especially in the open. This card was seen in the line pocket stacks, a very strong card. This just makes it much better. Now, yes, you need Devotion for this. If you're not running Devotion, this card isn't great against Skellige, but it's still very good against all the other matchups. Scoia'tael has boosted, Monsters has boosted, Syndicate has boosted, Nilfgaard has boosted. Skellige usually has boosted units in round 1, so you just use this in round 1. This is a very, very, very scary card, guys. Be careful about Horson Jr. This guy's coming in with full force. Full force. Halfling Safecracker is now no longer an engine. It now doesn't have Intimidate. So it works like the Dryhead Vanguard / the Tactic Guard. I'm forgetting the name of it again. But yeah, this is actually a nice nerf to it, I think. It does make it more generic in a way that it's now very similar to other existing cards. But at the same time, I think it was a warranted nerf. This card was too effective at what it did. Not only did it gain, was it massive tempo, playing for 8 consistently, but also it gained points for each crime you played, right? But because they removed Intimidate, they buffed the card to 4, which is nice. I accept that. It's a trade-off. Damnation. Provisions change from 8 to 7. This is the card that deals 2 damage to 3 adjacent units. Death blows spawn a Firesworn token for each death blow, right? So effectively, it plays for 12 at full value. Nice buff to it. I don't see this card being played at all. It didn't really see any play before, mainly because there wasn't much space for it. I think Congregate might run this. Might for Swarm, but there's just better cards. Like Sacred Flame is a better card. You know, Congregation is a better card. Congregate is a better card. So yeah, I don't think this is going to see any play. It's a nice buff though. Greater Brothers armor change from 4 to 5. Sure. Um, Nothing much to say about this. The Professor now deals 4 damage. That's actually pretty big. That's actually a pretty big one. The Tribute is you go through armor. Interesting, right? So now you apply a bounty on the target and then deal 4 damage to it. So if you kill an engine, like a Elven Swordmaster, for example, that's a lot of value. It's actually a decent buff. 4 damage is in the range of a lot of removal. Just by simply moving from 3 to 4, this card goes from being to very strong. It's an Ensayers, but now it also has bounty, but it has bounty on it, right? And if you pay a tribute of 3, you go through armor. So yeah, I think this is actually a very powerful card. Do I think Bounty is going to see play though? That's the thing, right? Bounty has just lost a lot of its oomph ever since the nerfs to it. I still think Line Pockets is going to be probably the go-to deck for Syndicate. We'll see though. Pirate's Cove, ability change to orders. Spawn Sea Jackal on an allied row, charges 2. So the old ability was spawn a Sea Jackal and gain 4 coins. So it played for an 8. This also plays for an 8, except now you have the flexibility to essentially guarantee a spender in 2 rounds. And I think that's actually a powerful change overall. I think this is actually a buff overall. So let's say in round 1 you don't have a spender. You just play this, spend your coins, you know? And in round this leader, essentially what it does, it reduces the chance of you having a surplus of coins but nothing to use those coins on. It also allows you to, I think, build your deck in a different way. Like you can remove 2 spenders because you have 2 Sea Jackals, which are very good spenders, by the way. I think this is actually a very nice buff. What deck would you run this in? I mean, it guarantees a Tide Cloak for your Collusion deck. There's one. I don't know. I think Line Pocket is still a better leader ability. I think Hidden Cache is a better leader ability. Congregate is just better leader ability. We'll see though. I think it's a nice change, but I'm not sure what you would run this in, right? Boris, power change from 3 to 5. This is a big buff. This is the bear, by the way. 3 strength, deal 3 damage, deathblow, gain 3 coins. So now it used to play as a 9, taking the coins into account. Now it plays as a 11. Yeah, I think it was 8 provisions, right? Nice buff to it. So it's a cutter beast, in case you're wondering. Grand Inquisitor Helvide is now 6 strength. It's a nice buff to Fire Swarm decks. That's a nice buff. Just makes him a little more difficult to remove. Keeper of the Flame, ability change to deploy, boost adjacent units by 1, tribute 4, boost all units in this row by 1 instead. Decrease this card's tribute cost by 1 for every allied cleric. So they're trying to make the cleric tag more relevant. For those wondering what cards have cleric, Helvide is a cleric. This card is a cleric. You know what? Cleric, Gwent. Yeah, Cleric of the Flaming Rose. Let's see. This doesn't help me. I'm pretty sure there was like a page that actually had all the cards showcased or something, right? Yeah, so I believe a bunch of the Fire Swarm cards are clerics. A lot of them are clerics. Order of the Flaming Rose, or whatever the card is called. The 4th-rank card, tribute to spawn a Fire Swarm token, fee 1, turn a Fire Swarm token into a Fire Swarm soldier, whatever. The 3-rank card, I'm forgetting the names of them completely. Very sorry for that. But yeah, it's a nice addition. You know, the tribute 4 is quite expensive, but the effect is quite powerful, right? A lot of tempo there, so you know, just make cleric like a little bit more powerful. Nothing wrong with that. Sacred Flame now has the Fire Swarm category, so that's just a tag. I guess that helps collusion, I guess. Um, yeah, you can actually run this in a collusion deck now, because collusion doesn't care about units; it just cares about the tag. So yeah, and I think the Dijkstra benefits of this as well. So if you don't want to run any Firestorm units, but you just want to have Firestorm tag, this is not bad because it's a nice it's basically a what's it called, a bone talisman, right? Tiger's Eye, this is the Syndicate stratagem. It now gives 5 coins at 4. This is actually a very strange buff. This card saw play. This card is a good card. Stratagem. 5 is just even better now. Alright, cool. Alright guys, so that's all the changes we've seen. We just have some miscellaneous stuff now, some new features. Support for 60 FPS on the Apple M1. So if you guys have these devices, that's nice for you. New journey, meet Triss and Condwire Rimmer's Tilly. Okay. Powerful mage and talented seer rewards, a lot of rewards to unlock. So they've already confirmed that this journey is going to be the very same as Yennefer's journey, so there's nothing massive in terms of change. The story is also going to be done in the same way as Yennefer's, which was the images. I know a lot of people don't like the images, they prefer the text story because it was a lot more detailed. The art was good in the Yennefer's journey, I actually like the art, but yeah, I do wish we got some text with it. But I think the journey after this is going to be going to have some big changes though. I'm excited for this. I love Triss. Can't wait. New starter decks. Bunch of stuff. Visual improvements. They've added more visual improvements to Tiger's Eye, Basket Venom, and Engineering Solution. This is only for the premium cards, by the way. So when you use them, they'll have like a nice cool effect. Game fixes. Bunch of bug fixes here. You can probably see this. Dandelion Vainglory is now able to target and destroy Saber-Tooth Tiger's stealth. Heck yeah, dude. If you were pissed off with Scoia'tael non-unit decks, just deck them, dude. Just deck against them. Just slam your Vainglory, and if they flip that Saber-Tooth, just say, screw you. Dandelion for the win. Simple as that. Sigiruin will no longer count unique gangs from its original deck when played by opponent through Cantola, which means that if Nilfgaard steals the Sigiruin, they won't gain 9 coins. Exactly. Gourd has also been fixed, and Salamander Page has also been fixed. There was some bug with their adrenaline effect not working properly. But there you go, guys. That's the end of it. Final thoughts. I'm very happy with a lot of the changes. Decks I'm excited to try out. I'm excited to really try out Weather Monsters, Soldier Nilfgaard, and a Madoc Reckless Flurry Skellige deck. Those are the 3 priority decks I want to try out. You'll probably see them very soon once the patch comes out. Very excited for this patch. And obviously, guys, we're getting into League season soon. The new expansion has been teased, of course, and I think it's supposed to come out in June. So the entire month of May, I expect to start seeing the leaks. Probably from the 2nd/3rd week of May, I would say, because I think there's 26 cards coming out with the first patch. 6 factions, which means my prediction is that each faction is going to get 3 cards, and there will be 8 neutral cards, or each faction gets 4 cards and there are 2 neutral cards. I'm leaning to the first one, the former, just because they tend to give a lot of neutrals as well. Price of Power, it's called Price of Power, POP, hold it down, yeah. But yeah, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys you know, maybe have some of your unique ideas on what kind of decks you want to play with the changes we saw in these patch notes. It's coming out tomorrow with the new journey. Super excited for this. If you guys enjoyed this video, please show your support, and I will see you guys in the next video. So take care.